Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. My name is Danny Torbett. I'm the Analyst Relations Manager at Decisions. Thanks so much for making some time for us today. We're going to jump into our in-product support advance called Dart and free custom AI chatbots, the power behind our new support features. So I'm really excited to introduce Will Pedersen, who's joining us from our client services and support group, as well as Ashley Wilson, one of our senior sales engineers. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Let us know in the chat because whoever is the furthest away gets a copy of Will's Technology Leadership Handbook. So I already covered the introductions. There's our beautiful headshots, everyone. Mine was created by AI. Surprise. Upcoming events that I wanted to plug before we dive in today. We're in two cities at the same time coming up, which is pretty exciting. If you are an insurance innovator, be sure that you check us out at Music City Center in Nashville, the 19th through the 20th. I hope that we're doing something cool down on Broadway. Nashville's a great town. Be sure to check us out there. And also at FIS Emerald Momentum, the 19th through the 22nd at the Walt Disney World Swan and Dolphin Resort in Orlando. Do you get to ride swans? That would be cool. Anyway, I also wanted to highlight our free process mining offer. We were recently recognized by Forrester in their process intelligence landscape. It just came out. In fact, we are going to be having it. There'll be a link to it on our site here soon. We're going through the reprints process with Forrester. But if you'd like to learn more about process mining and its capabilities and take a look at one of the processes inside of your business to provide some actionable insights for optimization, be sure to reach out to Mark Klein or just pop a note in the chat. We'll make sure that we get you connected. As I said, we've got a chat feature here, so please feel free to pop any questions that you have in. We have lots of folks on from Decisions, but we'll also leave some time for Q&A at the end. We're quickly going to cover what is Decisions today, because I know a lot of you are Decisions customers, since what we're talking about today is a feature of the Decisions platform. But we do have some folks joining that are new to Decisions, so I'll briefly cover that. And then we'll talk about Dart and Cortex. Dart, our new in-platform AI assistants for users, and Cortex, custom chatbot framework, the brains behind Dart. And then we'll cover some Q&A. So what is Decisions? Decisions is a no-code automation platform that makes automating complex business processes super easy. These are the 5 pillars of automation. A rules engine to enable complex decision-making and minimize errors with adaptable rule-based logic. Robust integrations to bridge that entire technology stack and manage the data from one place. Workflow automation to automate process, streamline operations, eliminate bottlenecks by dragging and dropping from a library of over 2,000 custom code steps to build any workflow. Process mining, as I mentioned, to unveil insights for efficiency gains and productivity boosts. And then finally, an interface designer that empowers users to visually design without deep programming knowledge. You don't need to be a coder to use any of these tools. Let's cover the things that we do really well really quickly. The first one is that essential rules engine functionality, the ability to expose logic and simplify rules authoring to a visual paradigm while managing the permissions of that rule logic and how it's rolled into production in a logical, rational, controllable, governable way. The second is what we call extend and expand. If you have any of these platforms, the logos on this slide, they tell you that they're customizable right out of the box. But as you will quickly come to find, that involves hiring a really expensive Salesforce or Oracle resource to come in and do that custom development, to customize those platforms to get what you need out of them. We're great at doing that. And then finally, orchestration. If you're in a business that has users logging into one system to get data to put into another system, to trigger an action in yet another system, Decisions is an open API platform. And we also have about 70 modules for the most common enterprise business platforms out there. to knock down those application boundaries to make work easier. If any of that's interesting to you new folks, please reach out to us at salesdecisions.com or just pop your name in the chat. We'd love to set up a demo for you and dive deeper. So again, super happy to have Will Pedersen here today, the leader of our client success and support group, to tell us a little bit about Dart. Welcome, Will. Thanks so much for making some time. What is
Yeah,
Dart?
thanks, Danny. Yeah, so Dart is the name that we've given to our in-app chat experience. If you'd like to go to the next slide for me.
Yeah.
And Decisions has supported in-app chat for a number of years. That has been supported exclusively by our global support team, where you can ask a question and then you can get an answer from a human. And through some things that we've been working on internally, we've learned, as many others have, that we can train a chatbot against custom data and have it really answer questions based on domain specific data. And this is really important for not only the quality of support that you get, but how quickly you can get support. So we've got a rich set of data in our documentation site at documentation.decisions.com, in our forum at community.decisions.com, as well as internal resources that only are available to our internal team members. And we wanted to make that information available to all of our customers as seamlessly as possible. And so we launched Dart. Now, as I said, we've had our in-app chat for a number of years. And about 2.5 months ago, we launched Dart, freely available for everyone in the platform. So if you have Decisions license, regardless of the version that you're running, assuming you're not running anything as ancient as V5, you have an AI-enabled assistant that has been custom trained on Decisions documentation and in other technical literature to answer your questions as well as possible. And so it's really helpful, both from if you're an experienced user and want to understand if there's a step that can do something, or if you are a new user who's just getting up to speed and trying to find their way around. Decisions is a big platform. We've got over 2,000 steps. It can be tough to understand what step to use for which particular activity, much less sketching all those steps together into a sequence to actually make some business logic come to life.
Right.
And so
And I think about like how that can accelerate the developer experience, right? If you think about typical platforms, even with our live human chat, right? There's a lag in that process, right?
Absolutely.
That
That's right.
slows down development, right? Not to mention in other less sophisticated platforms, having to log out, go to a support site, log in with your credentials, look up what you are trying to get the answer to, and not really have that curated experience from that rich data set. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's right. And so we're really thinking about Dart as being the sort of central entry point to all of your decisions, questions. How do I do this? How do I do that? Help me troubleshoot this. Help me troubleshoot that. And so the first version that we've launched is it's trained on our documentation, and it advises you on how to build things as well as how to find your way around the product. So I'll
Right.
quickly show you what that looks like by switching my screen here, if you
Go
don't
ahead. I will
mind.
stop sharing and you will share.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get my screen here up. And Danny, if you could confirm if you're looking at the Decision Studio now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I'm in Decisions 9.9 inside of a Decisions project here. I'm actually in one of our other App Store projects called Dynamic Questionnaire. And I can access our in-app chat powered by Dart at any time while I'm designing my flows or in the portal. And so I'll go ahead and click into Dart here, and I'll say, and I can ask Dart anything I want. I have some context-aware prompting. So
Mhm.
we're able to provide you different prompts out of the box based on if you're in the flow designer, in the rule designer, or if you're just in a navigating around the portal normally. So I can go ahead and ask it how I create a new project. And at this point, Dart is going to go ahead and respond to me with some information, given it's the training that it's conducted against our decisions documentation site. Now, this might look different than what you see if you're on a
Mhm.
version earlier than 9.6.
Mhm.
We've redone some of the UI to make it easier to sort of to view the information in Dart and interact with that information. And of course, you can ask clarifying questions, such as, yeah, are there best practices for creating new projects? And at which point, it's going to go back to the large language model, and it's going to answer that question and then respond back. Right. And so what we can, the Dart has access to all of the information about all of our steps. So you can actually ask it not only for high level guidance, but if I go into a flow here, I'm going to go ahead and close this chat out, and then I'm going to come into a flow here.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm in a flow. I'm editing a flow as a new user or a trained user. I'm going to open up Dart. You'll know that the prompts now are context aware, so they've modified. I'm going to ask it. I'm going to say, I have a request to build a flow that checks an email inbox on a schedule and sends specific emails to different groups. If I can type today, based on the content of that email. Can you advise on how to build that? Oh, Lord. And I'll go ahead and maximize this again. And Dart is going to go ahead and provide me detailed step level guidance about what steps to use to build that experience for my users. Give this just a moment here. Now, what Dart is doing is it's actually going and it's retrieving, and we're going to talk about this in the context of the other application to talk about here called Cortex. It is actually querying decisions documentation. It's using that documentation. It's answering that question. So decisions, our internal technical teams, our documentation team spend a lot of time documenting in great detail all of the steps available in the toolbox. And that work that we did years and years ago has really enabled us to make Dart able to answer hard questions. How do I build this? How do I build that questions very richly and very quickly. So here you can see it gave me some high level guidance about how to build a scheduled flow, how to retrieve emails, how to process email content, and then how to send emails down to groups. And so then I can continue this. And let's assume at one point I'm unhappy with the request. Maybe it's not but it's not understanding what I'm asking for. And at any point, I can request to have one of our support team members join. And so I could say, can I speak with a team member? At which point, Dart is going to respond and ask me if I'd like to be routed to a team member. And I can say, yes, please. And at that point, now off the site here, or off screen, inside of a decisions teams channel, our support team has now gotten a request, and they're going to manually reply to that request. And that team member is going to take over for Dart. They'll have all the context available for that conversation. And at that point now, someone is going to join here and begin to answer my question for me. In addition to whatever the large language model or the generative AI response was originally. Go ahead and great. So now that's one of our team members, Sean Hall. You can see we've now enriched the view with Sean's information. Now Sean has taken that over. I'll go ahead and tell Sean nothing to worry about here. Nothing to worry about here. Here, Sean, thanks for offering. And at that point, I'm going to go ahead and just close this experience and say, yes, at what point you can provide some feedback to us if you like about the experience that you've had, or even download your chat transcript so that you can review that at a future date. I'll go ahead and close that. And so that's really what Dart looks like when you use it inside of decisions. You can also find that information. The same chatbot experience is available on our doc site or on our beta site where we launched Dart many months ago on docbot.decisions.com. So again, the goal for Dart is to have a single entry point to all your technical Q&A that's trained by the decisions documentation that we are constantly iterating on to best support you and your team. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop my share and kick it back to you, Danny, sir.
Yeah, you can still get a human.
At any
You
time.
can always get a human.
Absolutely.
at decisions, right? So we don't want to give the impression that this is like the only channel. It's just augmenting that developer experience, making your lives easier.
Yeah.
So Dart, what is behind Dart?
Yeah. So a little bit of sort of Gen AI lingo here. Dart is what you would, if you read about how the way that they're building these models today, you're going to see a couple acronyms, but the main acronym you'll see is called RAG. That stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. And that's the way in which you can train a large language model with custom data. And we realized that while we were building this out internally, that the process of embedding this data, making it available, and including it as you send your requests to a large language model, it takes a lot of work. And it's the type of thing that workflow is really good at. And it's generic. It doesn't actually matter if the information is in Dart's example is technical documentation, or maybe
Mhm,
it's internal documentation. It's employee information from HR, or it's employee information about finance, whatever it might be. The content doesn't matter. What's hard is that you need some external resources and you need to plumb the whole thing together. So
mhm,
while we were building out Dart, we realized that this would make a great application to make available all of our customers in the App Store. And so we've named that backend that we built Cortex. And Cortex is a project that's available in the App Store. We have our sales engineer, Ashley, who's going to walk through some of that in a few minutes. But Cortex takes all of the work out of plumbing together, about of importing your information into a vector database. RAG requires these things, these special types of databases called vector databases, and you have to do some work to import that data. You have to clean the data up. You have to embed the data. There's some data transformation required, and then once you have it, you have to send the question from your user into the vector database, retrieve it, and then build a bigger request into the large language model that you're using. That could take a little bit of work to set up, even in something, even inside of a tool as easy to use as decisions. So what we've done is we've plumbed all of that together. There's there's a project, it's called Cortex. It uses the AI Common module. Our AI Common module gives you a single interface to interact with all of the major generative AI providers. You can swap between OpenAI. We are using OpenAI for Dart today, but you can use Gemini, you can use Anthropic, you can use OpenAI, and of course, we're going to track against new entrants to that market as they come out. You can also pick and choose the type of vector database that you want. Uh, Cortex is using Pinecone. Ashley's example is going to be using a local Postgres database called PG Vector. The only thing you need to bring to the game here to use Cortex is a vector database, and then obviously a decisions install with Cortex installed on it. And then what you get is the ability to quickly import and then quickly start to leverage some clever prompting. So some of the cool stuff that Ashley is going to show you is we're using prompts to categorize the requests automatically. We're using prompting to sentiment score the requests. We're actually bundling up all of the back and forth in a particular conversation thread. We're actually asking the model to summarize the question that was asked, or the questions, so it's easier for reviewers to be able to see all the questions that are being asked. You can also override questions. We understand that questions, certain types of questions you may want, you don't want to leave it up to the AI to answer. It's so mission critical that you want a human to review that. And so there's a multi-layer question answer approach that Cortex leverages. The first thing it does when I ask this chatbot a question um, is check to see if there's an existing question override or not. And if there is, it uses it. And if there's not, it goes and queries the external data store, enriches the customer request with that information, and then sends it to, again, your configurable large language model. So it gives you the ability to leverage external data and custom override these questions. These are capabilities that we see SaaS applications paying anywhere between $40,000 to $70,000 a year for. Now, one
Mhm.
clarifying point about Cortex is just the back end. Now, we think about this as actually a win. It's not the chatbot front end itself, right? It's not like the in-app chat sort of back and forth experience. It's the back end. It's the governance, the data management, the question and answer review pieces. It's all about importing data, managing data. And the good news is
Well,
there. Yes, Ashley, can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, okay.
I,
Did we
I can
did
hear
we
you
lose?
now.
Oh, okay. I think we might have lost Danny for a moment if my audio
I
never
think
cut
so too.
out.
I'm,
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
No
back.
worries.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you. No worries.
My apologies. Somebody
Yeah,
must have run over a cable or something.
yeah,
My apologies.
yeah.
All
Um,
good. Go
So
on.
what I was saying is you can plug Cortex because it's available as an API into any paid or freeware chat software that you want. You can expose this how you see fit, and it's built with logical tenancy in mind, which means that if Ashley and I are in different departments and we want to custom manage all of the data and the question overrides and all of the different question content and govern completely separately one chatbot experience versus another, we're able to do that. And you can create unlimited numbers of departments, each of which manage their own chat entirely separate from one another. And so we really think it takes all of the work out of setting up, importing, viewing, reviewing, and then governing all of the back and forth that you're going to get from one of these chatbots over time. And it's available in the marketplace for free. All you have to do is have a decisions license, and you can download Cortex and start playing around with it.
$0. Free?
Absolutely, free. Well, absolutely,
Free.
yeah.
$0. Um, Ashley, why don't you go ahead and show us? I think that's a pretty great overview.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop sharing. And why don't you pull up
Okay.
and let's take a look at some of the wizardry behind Cortex.
Anything for you, Danny. So what I'm going to do is take us through as if we'd just gone into those accelerators, installed Cortex, and you have this project that sits in your environment now. So what we'll do is go through some housekeeping, some things to keep in mind for setup. Will was mentioning that there's different roles, like a manager for review. There's an administrator that you'll need to mind who can actually do some prompt management as well as edit some of the teams that you create. So once you open up Cortex the first time, under Manage, just for that housekeeping, you'll get some groups that are pre-made. Just add whoever needs to be the admin for that sort of management, the high level management of Cortex. I've added myself to both of these, but you will, of course, manage this how you see fit. And then a manager. So when we're massaging the data, making sure that questions and answers are returned back, being sanitized to and from that external data, you'll have your manager handle that. So you want to make sure that these are set up first. And of course, with that database connection that you'll need, making sure that we're creating that database connection. So if you don't know already, once you create a connection, you can name this my connection here. I'm using the Postgres, like Will said, just custom connection string, and you're in business. Once you have that here, you see my friend, the Cortex Postgres as well. That's what I'm going to use. I'm also, just for good measure, this ID that you see up top here, right in the URL, you're gonna need to keep track of that as well. Once that housekeeping is taken care of, we can minimize and manage into the public. Right in your public folders, you'll get the Cortex Manager, which I've helpfully put in this tab here, just in case I need to flip back to the other screen. So you're not seeing anything that I haven't shown yet. And this is where you're managing your departments. Like we have a couple of them in here now, but if I wanted to make one from scratch for the webinar, just call this webinar team. My category, I'll just call this decisions questions, and that will be apparent in just a minute. And you start filling out basic information on this, like who's going to be the manager, put myself, since we're all ethical around here, managing all my own stuff. And then you start getting asked questions about what the vector match percent is and the number of results. So really what this is a way of asking you is, if I'm asking a question and there's something in the database that's a match to it, how close of a match before I'm returning that back as an answer? And if there's more than one, how many of those results am I returning back? So you can change these as much as you want. You can make it 100%. You can make it 50 like it was, or just keep it the same with the 5 number of results. You return back 10, return back 1. It's really up to you. That's the level of customization that you get by adjusting the back end. Since I already did my handy dandy Control-C, I can Control-V and paste it right where that vector database ID is. And then I'll just add in a vector database table name and save it. What this is going to do is create my team for me. Huzzah. So this is where that the management really comes in handy, is through this dashboard. I know, not very exciting right now. Once we start asking some questions into Cortex, you'll start seeing the display here. But I want to point your attention to these top actions that the admin will have. So if I decided, you know what, I really wish I would have made that vector return percentage 55% instead of the 50, fear not, you can always come back as an admin and make those adjustments, even if the database ID changes. All these you can update as well. So as an admin, I need to change anything about the team. It's not set in stone. After I hit OK, I don't have to start all over again. You can make those edits to the team, as well as some prompt management. So we've already taken the liberty of having some pre-cooked prompts, if you will, to generate things like a conversation title for review later. But if you need to tweak or adjust anything about this, I don't know, maybe you need to return it back, return the title back as another question, for example. You could adjust the title prompt to accommodate for that. As long as we're keeping in, here's the conversation, for example, so that it knows what data to read. There's a handy workflow in the background that will import everything we need for this. Other examples are like the summarization prompt. I'll just look at this. So if we need to summarize an entire conversation, like Danny's conversation with the AI and then Sean, this is the prompt that will consolidate all of that into something that's much more readable at the end. And then finally, what the administrator will be able to do is add in some external data that we can use to reference for the chatbot. And what I mean by that is there's this external data tab here at the end. Yours might be dark blue, just keep in mind. But this external data tab, if I click up here, is empty. Once it switches over to the page, we'll see that there's nothing in here for me to actually reference in Cortex. I'll give this just a second to load. Better yet, I'll give it that shake here. All right, this is that page.
I turned my camera off since my internet is so sketchy.
No worries, Danny. We
I'm
look
still
forward to
here.
seeing your face again soon. That's okay.
Soon.
Soon. It's an empty database right now. I don't have anything in here that I can reference until I insert that with a spreadsheet. Now, it's going to be pre-templated, which we handily put as part of this dialog pop-up that comes up. You can always download the template. You'll get this neat CSV file. But I figured I'd save you the trouble of filling out all of that and just show you this example to use. And there's about 10 entries in here that follow that template that are really some common questions that we get about decisions as a whole. Does it have this capability? Can I do this? Can I do that? X, Y, Z, all imported into this document. So what I want to do is take that same document, upload it here, since it follows my formatting. And what Cortex does is it adds all those entries helpfully for me into this database here. Ta-da. So now you can see all these IDs. These are references to those answers, really. You can even see the questions asked. For example, does it have the capability to receive claims? Yes, in fact, it does. And then it will give you helpful bits like what the documentation site could be. That would be the most helpful here. But what we want to see are some conversations, like some conversation management. So again, I'm going to show you this empty report here, and we're going to get cooking. So what I want to do is test out this Cortex backend right now. So I have this conversation starter. I'm going to use my friend Postman here to sort of give me an easier view for this in the mediary. But there's an action. Everybody will actually get this, not just admins. There's an action that you can use that will get that REST call. So if you're using some sort of external chatbot to ask the question through Cortex and use us as that backend, like we've been saying, this is your ticket to that. So once I copy this URL, I'm going to come into Postman here, start drafting up a question like, one thing that we hear a lot is, can decisions prioritize a rule? Question mark. I'll give this an ID. This is just like, if you could imagine, this would be that window that Will had. It's keeping track of conversation at a time. And I'll throw my email in there just in case. Might as well have something complete here. Copy and paste this URL since it's updated now. And trusty Google, I'll go ahead and paste this URL. And what I'm expecting is to get back some kind of response. But I'm not going to stay on the screen for too long because it's a spoiler. What I really want to see is this page here, update with some info. So can decisions indeed process a rule? Why, yes, it can. So you'll see that this updates asynchronously. So that way we're waiting on the data to populate, but we're not waiting to populate it in decisions itself. And I'm able to see and keep track of that conversation. If I were to continue on conversation 1 here and start asking, for example, well, what kind of rules or what kind of rules is best? I start asking these more targeted questions, then I can continue along in that same conversation. So maybe it doesn't have enough information on which is the best to use. It's a good example here. So now I can come back and forth between the overview. Now the screen is much more fun because we have some metrics that we can look at. And I can start seeing metrics like how many conversations are there, what's my average response time, weekly questions, what needs review, we'll come to this, and then what has been reviewed, we'll come to that as well. So if I wanted to look at my questions, I can see I get the sentiment score as well. Now my summarization starts coming in handy here. I'll hover over this and we can start seeing where the different AI prompts help me, especially if I'm a manager who needs to review these later. I need this in context, and you can use Cortex to give that to you. So prioritization of rules, conditional rules exception, request for more management. So let's review this question that's come in, because you notice I get this sort of gray middle, not quite smiling, not quite frowning, just indifferent face. I don't know if this is a question that I want to keep track of or maybe enrich the database with. So that's when we'll have this page to review that. And you can see that title has also given me some options here, like optimizing rule execution or tailoring different uses as well. And I can use this action as a manager to review that record. And this is where that enrichment can really start cooking for me. So we see that initial question that I'd asked, it met my threshold. My match percentage is met here at 59.81%. Looks like it was the only one that matched. Otherwise, I would have a list of these items. And then I can start tweaking what was the original question and response that came in versus the revision. Like maybe if there was a spelling error or some kind of syntax error here, I can revise that response and provide any feedback here, for example. Now, the status change that you can make from here are really what determines whether or not something can be reviewed as a valid answer but not added to the database, or reviewed as a valid question, a valid answer to that, and we want to send that kind of response back to the database. What that does is now that I've cleared that specific review out, I come back to my external data. What we'll see is that we've added that specific question: can decisions prioritize a rule? Why, yes, it can. Let's look at a different question that we asked here. This needs review, for example. What kind of rules are best to use? I'm sorry, I don't have enough information to provide a specific answer to which rules to use. It's just asking me for some more context. So this, I could see a case where maybe I'd want to have this response back. Maybe there's not a clear-cut answer. I could add this as well. But what if I asked something really out of pocket here? Like maybe I'd ask something, I'm going to change this up. And decisions, bake me a cake. Maybe not quite yet. We're getting there.
Cake module.
When's it coming? We're waiting. So we can see the response here, but we'll look at it in Cortex as well. Can decisions bake me a cake? You see, it's a quick response that I get back to. We're not waiting too long on the response as well. Not sure if they're asking if you're referring to baking a cake. Decisions themselves aren't capable of performing actions like baking. Yeah, I would probably want an answer like this to be included, or for Cortex to think about. Eventually, maybe it would get to the point that says, hey, I'm actually a technological assistant, not a baker. Please refer to this other website, this helpful site, something like that here. But whatever you can see based on the conversations that come in, like I changed my conversation numbers. I can get different questions or different sorting based off that as well. I can look at my analysis of the different questions and conversations too here. And you can really start seeing with all these different levers of adjustments that I can make, especially when it comes to the prompts, whether it's categorization, how do I determine the sentiment score? With all of these that you have to configure, you can get something really powerful, just like we have with Dart. This is all what that sits on as of now. You can look at all the questions here. It takes me over through the main overview. Will, anything to add?
Yeah, just to sort of touch on a few things there. One of, in that review screen, in fact, if you don't mind, Ashley, if you would pull up the question review screen that you had up a minute ago, there's a lot of information on that screen. But it's a tough problem today to know what resources a RAG bot, right? Back to this RAG acronym, what resources did it use? Could you right click and show the edit screen for me, please, Ashley? Yeah, review record. Actually understanding what, if any, resources were used when answering the particular question is what you get on the right-hand side here. And that's a non-trivial problem for RAG bots today. So because we use the workflow engine to sequence the vector database in a large language model, instead of doing that all in the large language model directly, which was what you'll see in most of these agentic or agent interfaces, you can actually see, hey, what data did the large language model use when it answered this question? This question is just wildly incorrect, right? Let's assume for purposes of discussion, why is it so wrong? And then you'll find out, oh, look at this. It pulled in data from an old document or some old thing. And now you can actually interact directly with the vector database through this user interface. I'm going to override, I'm going to delete, I'm going to modify, I'm going to edit. And so this is while it's just a simple screen inside of decisions, this is a real problem from a governance perspective from these types of use cases. It is a black box what data it uses to answer a question, and even the questions themselves or the way the individual questions roll up into a conversation. There's governance issues here that we think because we can so easily coordinate the behavior of these different like services in this project you can just download, you get this for free, right? And you, as Ashley was showing, you can answer a question or say, hey, not only do I want this question to be override, I want to update the data in my vector database. So again, you're interacting with the data store just through the organic process of managing the questions that are coming back and forth. Give you a view here, decisions documentation team historically has relied on tickets. Some of these will be from customers through our suggest edit functionality. Many of them are just the internal teams who are coming across a gap or needing clarity on something, and they'll submit a ticket. The documentation team, since we launched Dart, has modified its workflow. It is looking at all of the 500 plus questions we get a day, determining if the question was answered well, and if it was answered poorly, they're going to create content in our documentation site to solve that question better. And then what we do is we run a job at night and we pull down the most current version of the doc site every evening back into this vector database. And boom, now everyone who asks that same question has better data. People much more comfortable asking questions that make them look that they would be worried about asking a human being. They think, hey, I don't want to sound stupid, right? And they'll ask really basic questions into these chatbot to a chatbot. And now something like Cortex gives you the ability to see all of that and then either identify where the gaps are, custom answer it, and or understand if it answered poorly, why did it answer poorly, so that your teams who are in charge of these knowledge management activities can go target particular interventions to ensure that future people asking similar questions get the right answer all the time as quickly as possible.
I love it. That's a really cool demonstration. Ashley, thank you so much. Will, thank everybody on the product team. I think this is really cool. One, Dart to be an accelerator for the developer experience, right? So we're reducing our time to value as a platform overall. Actually, just got a question in from Satish down in Florida State. How to restrict users to the knowledge base for different groups of users? Can you touch
Yeah.
just a little bit on the permissioning part of this?
Yeah, so the very first thing I actually showed you was these concepts of teams. She creates individual teams, and you can expose. Think of a team as a wrapper around like a chatbot's like backend. And so I want to create one team that Ashley has access to and another team that Danny has access to. Because Ashley only has access to technical information and Danny has technical plus business information, right? And so based on that, I can permission them to access one or the other. Now, if that becomes insufficient, for some reason you have more information, you have a higher need for permissioning in some way, you want to actually put additional safeguards. Cortex is just a decisions workflow at the end of the day. So add some steps, add some validations, add some routing, add some logic, do whatever you would do in a normal workflow, and bam, you've got as comprehensive as you might need of a permission model as you can have, or as you might need. So it's really up to you. No, I don't think we did a good job of saying this earlier, or I didn't. There's no custom code here. There's a AI common module pointed at an OpenAI endpoint. So of course I have an OpenAI account and I have an auth key, and then I have a free Postgres vector database. Those are the two pieces independent of decisions that I have. No custom code. Every prompt, every behavior, every action is a workflow step or a rule which is running this whole thing, all the interface, everything. So you have complete control over how this thing functions.
Super cool. Super cool. Everybody go download this in the marketplace. If your business has made investments in a chatbot that is sitting on your website and all it's doing is routing support tickets or sending an email to somebody to reach back out to, make that bot smart, right? Leverage the work that the product team here has done to build the plumbing. I love that, the plumbing, right? Beneath an AI chatbot for you. Train it on your own data and put the guardrails and governance around it to make it a really valuable part of your business. Man, that is awesome. Also, we just dropped a link to the download in the Decisions Marketplace, and we also have the documentation up on our website. Thanks everybody so much for joining us. A great session. Thanks so much, Ashley. Thanks so much, Will. Any final
Thanks, Danny.
comments before we sail off into the sunset?
No, let us know if you download it and have any issues. Ask Dart if you have any problems, and it or someone from our support or solutions team is happy to help you out.
I love that. Satish, I'm sending you my email address right now. Let's link up after this. Thanks everyone so much for making some time for us here today. I sure miss our outro music because this is always a lot more fun. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for coming to Decisions webinar on
Thank you,
Dart.
everyone.
Thank you.
Cortex.
Take care.